Hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Longinusa, welcoming you to another edition of Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where industry leaders, golf professionals, and legends all come and discuss the great game we love so much. So without further ado, let's turn it over to our host to tell us who's next on the tee. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe Longinusa. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me again today on Next on the Tee. Today, I have the privilege of having two guests that I really admire very much, and that's Matt Adams and David Meltzer. Matt, as you know, is the host of the Fairways of Life show on Sirius XM's PGA channel. We'll talk to Matt about some surprising news from my perspective from TaylorMade this week and get his thoughts on Davis Love being named Ryder Cup captain, plus his thoughts on other things going on around the PGA Tour. Matt's going to join me here in just a few moments. Later in the show, I'm going to be joined by David Meltzer, and David is the CEO of Sports One Marketing, a company he runs along with his partner, Hall of Fame quarterback from the NFL, Warren Moon. David has a weekly segment with us on the football side on our show Thursday Night Tailgate. He hosts a weekly segment called The 12th Man, where he talks with some of the athletes that they are working with who are doing some great things out in their respective communities. So we're going to get an update from David on the things that they are working on near the bottom of the hour. But before we get started, I want to remind you about one of our sponsors, Custom Golf Bags USA. Custom Golf Bags USA is the ideal choice for corporates and individuals wanting to customize their logo on high-quality golf gear. Their founder, Travis McLean, has taken his love for golf to new levels for all golf lovers around the world. They understand that everyone wants to dress like a golf professional, play like a golf professional, and now with Custom Golf Bags USA, you can have a bag like a golf professional. At Custom Golf Bags USA, they design their golf bags with the individuality of the customer in mind. They offer the best in quality and innovation by utilizing the most cutting-edge production technologies and expert workers to ensure that your bag is at the top of its class. Custom Golf Bags USA knows that top-quality golf bags are more than just fancy embroidery and needlework. It's the effective blend of high-quality materials, superior design, and top-notch customer service. Everything from the interior structure of the bag to the outer panels is created with the utmost care and attention to detail. Why not let your clients walk the fairways promoting your company's brand, and Custom Golf Bags USA can customize a golf bag that will make you a legacy, something they'll never forget. It's your game, your way. For more information, check out their Facebook page, Custom Golf Bags USA, and give them a like. That's important to them, too. All right, I want to kick off the show like we do every week by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military. We want to thank you for your daily sacrifices and all you do to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank those of you who serve or have served in every branch of the military and public service. We truly appreciate what you do to preserve our freedoms and our liberties. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It's an honor for us to have our show be a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. We also want to thank everyone listening in on iHeartRadio, as well as great radio sites across the internet like Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Player.fm, and Blog Talk Radio as well. Plus, if someone's dragging you around the mall or to the grocery store, or you're just tired of the same old on your commute, download the Player.fm or Stitcher app as well on your smartphone, and you can take us with you everywhere you go. Let us give you something fun to focus on while you're out and about. All right, now back with me on the Custom Golf Bags USA guest line is Matt Adams. Let me, like I mentioned a moment ago, I'm sure you know that Matt is the host of the Fairways of Life show on Sirius XM's PGA Tour channel. But let me give you some more of Matt's background. He's been featured on the BBC, ESPN, the Golf Channel, PGA Tour Entertainment, and the European Tour production site. He's also the author of 10 books, including some of the Chicken of the Soup for the Soul series and his Fairways of Life book, which is an absolute must-read for every golf enthusiast, and is sitting right here next to me at this time, is fantastic. You're going to love this book. He has interviewed virtually every living legend. He is one of the best interviewers, not only in golf, but in all of sports. and I'm an avid listener of his show every weekday morning. He's got a great newsletter that comes out as well. You're going to want to sign up for it. Go to fairwaysoflife.com to do that. And one of the things that I love about Matt, from listening to his show and getting the opportunity, a couple of times already, this is his third appearance with us on the show, is he's a regular guy. He doesn't realize or even act like he realizes that he's going to go down as a legend in this industry, right up there with the likes of Pat Summerall and Ken Venturi and hopefully our mutual friend, Mr. Ben Wright. And I'm honored to have Matt with me next on the tee this morning. Matt, how are you, my friend?
A little embarrassed, but thank you, Chris. I appreciate your kind words.
So, Matt, one of the topics you discussed on your show this week that I wanted to spend some time on this morning is the news that TaylorMade is going to be opening some outlet stores to sell product closeouts, from not only their TaylorMade brand, plus the Adidas brand, Adams Golf, Ashworth. And, from what I listened to you on the show, and I happen to agree with you, it's going to be a huge shift, or possibly a huge shift, and have a major impact on the retail side of the golf industry. You spent some time on the retail side, earlier in your career. How major of an event could this turn out to be?
Well, I actually spent my time on the manufacturing side of golf equipment, so I was serving retailers around the country and serving buying groups. So I know acutely just how seismic a shift this has the potential of being. From TaylorMade's perspective, in fairness, they're saying to the world, wait a minute, folks, don't get all excited about this. Simply what we're doing is we're opening up outlet stores so that we can clear through inventory, because the way that product life cycles have increased in recent years, at least the last decade, Chris, have been such that it clogs the pipelines with products. The challenge that you have at a retail level, though, if you're a golf retailer, PGA Tour Superstores or the old Edwin Watts or Nevada Bob's or Golf Headquarters or any of the other names that exist throughout golf retail, or the big box sporting goods, like a Dick's Sporting Goods or what have you that sells equipment, that person that's going into the marketplace that's looking for a new driver or looking for a hybrid or whatever it is, set of irons, whether they buy that driver or set of irons at a discount outlet store that's clearing through old inventory, or they buy it from your retail store, it's the same consumer. They're not going to buy a driver twice, one being the full price new one and one being the discounted older one, last year's model, if you will. So it is a very, very significant move, and the danger it depends upon your perspective. One, from a consumer perspective, does this mean that consumers have the opportunity to buy branded product that may not be the cutting edge this month, maybe it was 6 months ago or a year ago at a discount? Yes, that possibility exists. From a retail standpoint, the danger is, let's say that they're immensely successful with this effort, and instead of opening a few outlet stores, they decide to open 1,000 or 10,000, you name the number, whatever the number is, and they decide that they're going to skip traditional retail distribution altogether. Well, that's obviously going to be very serious consideration to, if you're a golf retailer right now, if a major manufacturer decides, you know what, we're going to go it alone. And even if it doesn't go to that level, if they're successful at a level that causes the other manufacturers to say, hey, if TaylorMade's going to do it, we're going to do it too, again, you're having an impact on the current retail system of distribution. Now, from a manufacturer's perspective, if you're Daddy Warbucks manufacturer, you decide that you're going to do this, and one of your major retail chains, whether it's a franchise retail chain or it's a big box sporting goods retail chain, what happens if they become offended by it and they drop you as a supplier because they said you are no longer a supplier to us, you are in fact now a competitor to us as well? Now you've got a huge risk on a corporate level. So there are there are many tripwires in what's happening here. There is the upside from TaylorMade that says, hey, if we exercise a discipline to only sell old product through this distribution, then maybe it's going to be okay. I don't think, from my experience with retailers, they're not going to see it as okay, because they're still going to see them as competitor, because you're taking somebody out of the marketplace that's not otherwise buying old product from the retail. They have product they want to sell too that's last year's, regardless of what brand is on it. So this is a very, very serious move. I'm not trying to tell you whether it's good or bad. I'm just trying to tell you that it had serious repercussions in many different directions.
Yeah, and to that point, Matt, if this is successful, one of the ripple, effects that this could have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if TaylorMade, instead of selling the new driver, if this becomes successful, and this, to your point about cutting out some of the big boxes or the other distributors they have,
mm-hmm.
if the driver costs me TaylorMade $150, and I'm just making stuff up, but $150 to make, and so to a retail outlet, I may sell that to them, wholesale for $250, who will then mark it up to $400 to sell it, to you and me when we go in the store to buy the latest and greatest, right? But instead, if they decided to, I'm gonna skip this middleman, and now I'm gonna sell my new driver for $250 to you and me. So now I'm not going to the big box, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's got to set a standard in the industry, right? Because now Callaway's got to do the same thing, Cobra's got to do the same. Everyone's got to do the same thing because I'm going to go to TaylorMade and buy the latest and greatest from them for $250, as opposed to going to the PGA Superstore to buy Callaway's for $400, right?
Yes, that is a potential risk, Chris. But bear in mind what TaylorMade is telling the world is that they're not going to put the latest and greatest in these stores. They're only going to put their inventory that they're trying to clear through the system. But that now comes down to, well, wait a minute, how do you define the so-called latest and greatest? Because the product cycles, which used to be 3 years, then they went down to about half that, then under 12 months, and now what do we call a product cycle? 3 to 6 months before there seems to be something new coming in the system. So
right.
If you consider latest and greatest within the last year, then you're going to be able to get latest and greatest there. But if you consider latest and greatest to be the stuff that they introduced just yesterday, then that is supposedly still going to be sold at its full retail value, as you demonstrated, through their traditional retail chain.
Yeah. But, as I look at it, as a guy who, and I would think, Matt, that there's got to be, fewer and fewer people that can either afford to spend $400 to $500 year after year. To your point about things getting introduced into the market multiple times during the course of a calendar year, you're either going to get you can't afford to spend $400 to $500 on the new driver, or you're just going to get tired of it because so many things keep coming into the market year after year. So I've got to be able. I would guess that they are selling fewer and fewer of those pieces. But if I can sell it at $250, and now all of a sudden I bring a lot more people into the marketplace that might be willing to spend $250 as opposed to $400 or $500, and I can sell it directly and make the same margin, boy, if it's successful, I would think they'd go that route, wouldn't they?
Well, again, there's a couple points to make there, Chris, to what you're saying, because we have to make sure we define the presumptions. The reality is that the number of people that are buying pieces of equipment in the marketplace, the pie, if you will, is not getting any larger. So when you say more people at $250, what you're doing is you're shaving off a piece of the pie from somebody else. It's not though the market's suddenly becoming flooded because people see greater value in equipment. The sale of premium equipment, the early adopters, as they call it in marketing parlance, that's an 80-20 rule, and that number pretty much is going to stay the same no matter what. These are people that are a reflection of, A, having the means to do it, and B, the hope that springs eternal that the next piece of equipment that you buy is going to bring your game to the level that you've always desired it to be. The risk in the increase in product cycles, the reason, first of all, to illustrate, the reason why these increase in product cycles have taken place is because these companies are publicly traded and they're pressured in quarter over quarter to show increases in sales and profits. So that's why they rush products out into the marketplace. But the risk you run, even for the 80-20, that coveted 20% that are the early adopters and pay the full retail, is that you're going to make them feel duped, where 6 months ago I laid down a lot of money for a new driver that was the latest and greatest and had all the bells and whistles, and now you're telling me that that's already obsolete. You've got to be careful with that. That's the reason why many companies, for example, like Titleist or Ping, slow down their product introductions on a more traditional scale because they're afraid of the fact that if you go too quickly, we're going to train the consumer to go, I'm not going to buy it right now. I'm simply going to wait 6 months and wait to get it off the discount rack. So there's a lot of variables that go into all of this.
So let's move on to some of the other more recent news around the tour. Matt, I was looking over Davis Love III's Ryder Cup record. He's played on 6 teams. He's 9-12-5 in his 26 matches. He was an assistant captain back in 2010 when we lost at Celtic Manor. He was the captain in 2012 when we lost at Medina. Were you surprised that he was a unanimous choice, by the way, of the task force committee to captain the team in 2016?
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought that Fred Couples would probably get the nod. You know, there's a lot of information on the inside of this, some of which I've shared on my show and some that I haven't, to be honest with you, because to a certain extent I kind of listen to all this and go, you know, it's interesting to talk about, and there's a lot of passion that gets inbred in it. But at the same time, there was so much energy and effort and as I mentioned, emotion invested in this idea of the task force, and then it was all said and done, and we came out of it and said, what did we really gain here? First of all, I think that Davis Love is going to be a fine captain. He's a good leader. He did a heck of a job at Medina. He just ran into a buzzsaw on that final day. But I was surprised, not because I don't think that he's going to do a good job. I was surprised because I thought that the path was already being laid for Fred Couples. I didn't feel that Paul Azinger was going to get the nod, and the reason why I didn't feel that is because this is what I mean by inside information, but it's been released over the last week, so now I feel like I can talk about it. I had known because Ted Bishop told me that Phil Mickelson said to him that the system, that he was talking about Paul Azinger's pod system, that the system worked, but he didn't like Phil Mickelson's leadership style. Now, again, I want to reiterate, that information was released to the public this week in Ted Bishop's own writing for SI Plus Golf. So that was something that he had told me in private, and so I didn't say anything about it publicly. But I knew that Azinger didn't have Mickelson's support. The bigger question was, well, what happened with Fred Couples? And again, because it's coming out now publicly, I can tell you that at Medina on that Sunday, the word was that Freddie didn't take a radio with him. They were unable to reach him, that he was hanging out at a corporate chalet with Michael Jordan and others, and that what it did was it riled and rubbed the PGA and the people in that room the wrong way because they felt like he didn't have the commitment that they needed at the time, that they needed somebody out there to be a cheerleader, and maybe that would have been the half a point here or there that would have made a difference. Don't know. I'm just giving you the inside information in terms of what I was hearing and what is now starting to come out and be part of the public discourse with all of this.
Right.
The thing that I find the most interesting with all of this is here you referenced Davis Love's record, and moving forward, the task force, as you know, is done. It folded up its chairs with the announcement with the press conference, and now they're going to have this Ryder Cup committee, which will have the CEO, the president, and the vice president of the PGA of America, as well as Tiger, Phil, and Davis Love III, none of which, in fairness, have winning records in the Ryder Cup, which I thought was interesting, because you're putting together a six-person committee, and it's unclear to me if this committee is actually in the future going to be naming assistant captains, two of which were former United States Ryder Cup captains and two more that have significant Ryder Cup experience. Well, how do you put a committee together with six members? If you have a tie, then who's going to break that vote? So I thought that was odd. I thought it was odd that there wasn't anybody put on the committee that has a discernibly winning record at the Ryder Cup, however you define that, whether it's someone new that's just off the top of my head, a Patrick Reed that now has a winning record, or whether it's someone of a veteran status like a Lee Trevino or a Larry Nelson, which would be a nice way to reward the man that was never rewarded, even though he's an American war hero, and he wasn't rewarded with a Ryder Cup captaincy. Well, maybe you put him on this committee so his voice can be heard and influence future generations, something, anything. So there's a lot of questions surrounding that. And then the news that has come out predominantly this week, which was, again, something that we knew on the inside, that the loudest voice in that task force room was Phil Mickelson's. And with all due respect, I don't know whether Phil's opinion carries more merit than another's or not, but it certainly opens up the grounds for conversation to say, is the feelings and the opinions and the desires of Phil Mickelson's the one that should shape the future of the American Ryder Cup? I don't have the answer to any of this, but I'm telling you, these are all the questions that are raised as a result, in my humble view.
Yeah, and then, to your point, Matt, Ted Bishop's article, and you mentioned Mickelson's support and, how loud his voice is, and that's what sort of Ted Bishop was writing about, right, in his article, that the real boss of the Ryder Cup team is Phil Mickelson, and he's the one pulling all the strings. To your point, is whether that's valid or not, you got to wonder, is he setting himself up to make sure that he's the captain in 2018?
I think that's a foregone conclusion. I don't think his motivation is based upon securing his position going down the road. I think Phil Mickelson's actions are based upon an absolute conviction on his part that he has the answers. His record would not suggest that he has the answers, but maybe he does in
Right.
this regard. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to it. I'm not. It's not clear to me how Phil Mickelson has emerged as a voice of conscience and the answer for the American Ryder Cup situation when he's been a part of it for a decade more. So it's the whole thing. It has me somewhat confused. But they feel very confident that they have a direction set that's going to be the answer for the Ryder Cup.
If for some way, shape, or form you had a voice in the committee, is there something that you would recommend that they do differently or better? Is there something that you've seen to go, you know what, this doesn't make sense, but I'm telling you, this does?
One of the things, again, I would go back to the simplicity of saying when you're going to set up a chorus of voices that are going to guide the future Ryder Cups. All right, let's take a look, for example, at what we were talking about. They're now calling the PGA Ryder Cup Committee. You've got three administrators on it. The CEO of the PGA of America, Pete Bavacqua, whose record in the Ryder Cup is 0-0-0. You've got Derek Sprague and Paul Levy, who are respectively the president and the vice president of the PGA of America, and they too have a record of 0-0-0 at the Ryder Cup. And then you have Davis Love III, you have Tiger Woods, you have Phil Mickelson. Good leaders, strong players, legends, if you will, blah, blah, blah. Get all that. But they all have a losing record in the Ryder Cup, both as players and in Davis's case now as a captain. And I mean this with all due respect. Why not put some other people on that committee that also have a winning record? Now, where would you go to for that? The question would be begged and asked. Well, take, for example, Lee Trevino. Very fiery guy, great record in the Ryder Cup. Former Ryder Cup captain himself, winning record at that. Maybe Jack Nicklaus would sit on that committee. This is what I'm talking about. So you could look at it and go, you got old guys, we need to do this new thing. Jack Nicklaus was the voice that wrote the letter to Lord Derby in 1977 and said, you need to bring on all of continental Europe. The guy has possessed his entire life this ability to see beyond the here and now and see what the future ramifications are for decisions that need made. So from all of that standpoint, and in the entirety of the circle, that's where I would go. I would say, it's fine if you want to have these guys on there. I understand, I get it, but let's try to balance it a little bit and not make it all about hearing I want to make sure that the voices are heard because of balance and because of merit, because of leadership, and not simply because of ego.
There you go. Couldn't agree more with that now. Matt, one of our mutual friends is 2003 PGA champion Shaun Micheel. He's trying to battle his way back, onto the tour after dealing with a pretty significant shoulder injury. Last year he was dealing with a heart condition. The only event he is exempt now to play on anymore is the PGA Championship, which he gets to play until he's 65. This week he's down and playing in the Puerto Rico Open. He made the cut. After 2 rounds, only 5 strokes off the lead. How great would it be to see Shaun make his way back, not only, playing some events on the PGA Tour, but really set himself up for a nice run on the Champions Tour?
Shaun is one of those people that are just great in this game. There are many of them, frankly, but in what you do and what I do now and this opportunity to speak to people, we get this rare opportunity, I think, to really get inside of somebody's heart and mind. And recently, and having had a chance to do that with Shaun Micheel, we learned out that these health issues that he faced, he's hurt by the fact that people put together these lists and they say, who was the worst player to win a major championship? And I always look at that and scratch my head and go, what the heck does that mean? This guy did what he needed to do at the time that he needed to do it, and he won a major championship. It doesn't matter if he couldn't make a cut for the rest of his life. The week that he needed to win a major, he won the major championship, and he beat everybody else in the field to do it. So you can't take away from a guy for what he actually did based upon what he hasn't done yet, which is this, dominance and run. So I was unaware myself. I knew that Shaun had gone through injury issues, but I didn't know the extent to which he had gone through injury issues of the variety that you talked about, but more specifically and recently with the heart stents that he had, multiple ones that he had to have put in. That was shocking news to me for a guy that's not even 50 years old yet. And then to get a chance to speak to him and to realize how humble he is, how much he wants to do, how he legitimately loves this game and he wants to play well at it, but that through all of these injuries and through all of the people questioning the merits of his win, this is a guy that seems to be questioning himself whether he deserves to be on the form that he's on. So the story of him coming back and playing well alone, yes, as you mentioned, making the cut, which is great, but then winning would be one of the great stories in the game, and it's a pursuit that he is after, that he's marching down. I just hope he does it with the conviction of knowing that he cannot be denied the glory of what he has actually accomplished. He hit the shots that he needed to hit. He won that PGA championship, and that's something that he definitely should be proud of, and I hope it's a source of strength for him and not distraction.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree with that more. And, the article that you kind of allude to is Dan Jenkins wrote that article, which is, really unfortunate that, you try to find, the bad and the good. And Sean is definitely, one of the good guys out there. We have a world of respect for Sean, and we are pulling hard for him down in Puerto Rico and for every golf tournament he gets to play. And we hope he gets back into the winner's circle. And like he said to us, a few weeks ago when he was on the show here, hopefully the next time he comes on is because we're talking about him being a champion again.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt, you've done a lot of work on the European Tour. Several years ago, Padraig Harrington was at the top of the sport, making his 3 major victories there, the Potty Slam, if you will. Shortly thereafter, he changed his swing. He finally got back in the winner's circle last week at the Honda Classic. Do you think he's back? Is he going to be a major factor again on tour?
I don't know how a major effect he's going to be, but I do think he's back, to the answer to the first question, of evidence obviously by having won, but I also think it puts him in a position where he's going to have the confidence to play well and contend and have good finishes, however you define that, top 20s, top 10s. I don't necessarily feel that a guy that's in his early to mid-40s now is going to go out and be a force on the tour like he was when he won 3 major championships, but I think he's going to play well, and I think we're going to get used to seeing his name up there again, where for the last few years, he hadn't won since 2008. Last few years, he kind of disappeared altogether.
Right.
He's a unique guy. He doesn't call himself a tinkerer. He does not feel that's him once he gets on the golf course. But when he gets on the practice range, he sure as heck is. And, it's very, very interesting that when you look at these top players, and Tiger's done it himself multiple times, in fact, that they get to the pinnacle of success in the game and it's not enough. They want to find what's next and what's around the corner that could take them to a whole new level. And many times we see that pursuit goes the opposite direction and ends up being a detriment for the way he plays. So I'm hoping that whatever he does, that he settles into a rhythm so he can build confidence with the putting stroke that he has right now, with the swing that he is working with right now, and that he has consistent play moving forward as a result.
There you go. Matt, just a couple more before we let you go. First, we recently lost Billy Casper. For a guy who won as often as he did, 33 times in the 60s, as many times as Jack and more than Arnold and Gary, is he one of the most not only underrated but underappreciated players in golf history?
He definitely was that, I can say with conviction. I think when he published his biography a few years ago called The Big Three and Me, it did a lot for many people to kind of peel back the veil and make them realize just how special a person Billy Casper was. In fairness, though, and Billy Casper became a dear friend of mine, and I love the man immensely, but I have to say that much of the reason why he fell in between the cracks of the pages of history was by his own making. When he was player, he was so stoic. He just came across as though he had no interaction. When the Big Three, where you had Palmer and Player and Nicklaus in the 1960s, that all seemed to just bubble over with personality and enthusiasm. People connected with them. The height of that, of course, was Arnold Palmer, who seemed to make eye contact with every member of the gallery along the rope line. Billy Casper didn't. He really didn't even look at the rope line. And he told me years later that the reason why he acted that way was twofold. One, mostly, because he was trying to be like his hero, who was Ben Hogan, who had this laser-like focus, which accounted for the fact that Billy Casper had 51 wins on the PGA Tour. Remarkable when you think about it, and 3 major championships, and still to this day, the best record on the United States Ryder Cup team ever. Still to this day, just remarkable. So the juxtaposition with Billy Casper was that as he got older, people started to know him for who he really was, which is and was the warmest man that I've ever met in association with professional touring golf. He was a guy that even after getting to see him once or twice, the next time you see him, he remembers your name and he'd greet you with this big Billy Casper bear hug. He was a guy that had 11 children, 6 of which were adopted. In 71, when you count his entire flock of grandchildren or great-grandchildren, absolutely remarkable. And he put together charities for children. He spoke around the country about empowering children and protecting children and helping children. It was absolutely remarkable to me to get to know the man that I thought that I knew and realize now that I never really knew at all until the last few years of his life. So I'm glad that the word of who Billy Casper was is getting out and that the story is getting out in correct form and function and placement in terms of who this man really was. The second reason, which I didn't get to in terms of who he was relative to galleries, was because of his food allergies that he started to eat. He didn't feel well many of the times that he was out there. He ended up eating his very exotic meats with caribou and buffalo, and that's where he got the nickname Buffalo Bill that still carries the name so the business that carries his name, Buffalo Communications. And so that was all part of who Billy Casper was. So he was just one of these fascinating men in the world of golf. And many times I think, Chris, in society, when someone passes away and we go, oh, this is a great loss for society, in fairness, I'm not trying to be mean, I kind of shrug my shoulders and go, the person kind of fell out of march with society anyway. We never heard from him anymore. No one ever interviewed him. And Billy Casper was different in that regard. He was tied in. He was active. You saw him at major championships and Ryder Cups and the like. So this is a loss that I do actually think in reality, not just saying it at a man's time of death. I do think that this is a loss that the game will feel and society will feel.
Amen to that. Matt, before I let you go, got to ask, how are things with the boys?
My boys, they're doing well.
Your boys.
I got 2 high school boys, and the older one blew out his ACL playing soccer a couple months ago, and it's remarkable.
Oh.
I've never done that. And to see what they do to replace a tendon and how well and how fast he's coming back from that is absolutely mind-blowing to an old hockey player like me to watch this thing happening. And CJ, my younger son, as most people know, which I'm guessing you're alluding to too, Chris, is the one that's in the motion pictures, and so he's continuing to march on and do his auditions and new projects coming in, and so he's having fun with that. I think the most important thing for us is just to make sure we keep it in balance and make sure that he has the right and the privilege and the pathway to just live the life of a freshman in high school and not just be surrounded by La La Land with all the stuff that goes on in the movies. And so he's a really good kid, both are, and he's doing a really good job of keeping all that in check.
That's awesome. Good for you, Matt. Matt, I want to end our time together this morning by quoting you. If we are all destined to miss our share of 3-foot putts in life, then we can at least seek to increase our odds of success through preparation and a conviction that not only are we capable of success, but we deserve it. And I agree that we all need positive reinforcement, and sometimes we have to give it to ourselves. Thank you for being a very positive way for all of us to start our mornings with your show, Fairways of Life, and it's great stuff. Talk just for a moment about your newsletter, like I mentioned in your intro. Fairwaysoflife.com is your site, and you've got a wonderful newsletter there.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the time that you give me to blab on here and give you my opinion. I think you're doing a tremendous job. I love what you're doing in terms of spreading the message, the ever-important message for all those serving in the military and the sacrifice that those 1% make for the rest of the 99%. So thank you for everything you do for the game and for that message as well.
I appreciate that very much, Matt. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to be a part of the show. I hope you'll do it again sometime soon because you always are so fantastic.
I look forward to it, Chris. It's an honor. Thank you.
All right. Share my thanks to Dominic as well for helping to arrange it, and all the best to you and your family, Matt. I look forward to catching up soon.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Good day. Matt Adams, I'm telling you what, they don't come better than Matt Adams. And when I tell you, he is going to go down as a legend, and not only in, for sports talk radio, but in broadcasting in general. He is absolutely fantastic. And if you get an opportunity, make sure you're listening in the mornings as well to his show, Fairways of Life. It's a great way to kick off your mornings, and for all golf enthusiasts everywhere. He's got some wonderful guests and wonderful insights. I can't thank Matt enough for being a part of the show. All right, we've got our next guest hanging on the line. Now joining me on the Custom Golf Bags USA guest line is one of the greatest men that you're going to find anywhere on the planet, and that's David Meltzer. David is the CEO of Sports One Marketing, where he is a partner with another great friend of ours, and that's NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon. David is also a best-selling author. His book, Connected to Goodness, Manifest Everything You Desire in Business and in Life, is flying out of Amazon's warehouses and off the shelves at bookstores around the country. Like Matt's book, it too is sitting right here next to me because the lessons it teaches are ones you're going to refer to back, for the rest of your life. I can't thank Dave enough for getting up with the sun out there in California to be next on the tee with me this morning. Dave, how are you, my friend?
I'm awesome. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. So,
Great.
Dave, I wanted to start with getting, an update from you because we've got an Unstoppable Gala coming up here in a couple of weeks where your partner and our friend Warren Moon is going to be honored for the work that he's doing to bring education to people around the world. So it's an event we're excited about, and I know you're looking forward to as well.
Yeah, we're building villages around the world to educate these kids who just aren't afforded the opportunities that we are here in the United States. And Warren, unbelievably or believably enough, just has been honored and will be honored at this huge gala on March 21st in Los Angeles as the Humanitarian of the Year Award. And it's a very significant award. It's a 600-person gala. The MCs are Tony Gonzalez, Sean King, Larry King, just a variety of huge celebrities, authors, thought leaders. It's an amazing event. Actually, Malula, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, won it last year. And we have a website, WarrenMoonChallenge.com, to challenge other people to match our donations to build these villages. And we really are trying to empower these kids with all the different knowledge and power that knowledge brings them.
That's fantastic stuff. Yeah, we're looking forward to being a part of the event as well, and we are very proud, not only of the partnership that we're privileged to have with you and Warren and Sports One Marketing, but as well to see, one of the things that may surprise people, that aren't as connected to the sporting world, or for guys, for the alumni players and some of the Hall of Fame players. Warren does such a wonderful job of charitable work, not only what he's being recognized here, but throughout the year and in many different ways. And that's one of the wonderful things that we've had the opportunity to learn about Warren and to learn about you and Sports One Marketing, for all the wonderful things that you guys are doing, together, plus helping other guys, other athletes do, get more involved in their communities, and the wonderful works that you guys do to help athletes in their respective communities. So kudos to all of you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I sat down with Warren yesterday before he flew back down to Houston to see his new grandson, and we were talking about the significance of the opportunities that are afforded to us. And, I have a belief, a lot of kids are in our internships.com program getting jobs in sports, and over 75% of all jobs are created by internships. And I hear so much negative thought or shortages, voids, or obstacles created in the minds of our young people simply from an ignorance, a lack of experience, and they create this belief that there's a lack of opportunity. And I just really am promoting, and I know Warren is promoting, the fact that there's unlimited opportunities in this world, and that what is really lacking is resolve. And I think the one thing that Warren represents more than anything, as much as he is an extremely talented quarterback and an extremely wonderful, abundant human being, is that he epitomizes the fact that there is no lack of opportunity, and that if you have the resolve, that you can manifest or you can have or attract anything to your life. And in fact, in essence, Warren, he took on the NFL. It took him 6 years to prove that he could be a face of a franchise. And in the end, the NFL rewarded him for his courage and his resolve by making him, the top Hall of Fame quarterback and the first African-American quarterback in that Hall of Fame. Absolutely right.
David, I want to talk a little bit about your book, but we'll do that here in just a moment, because I know a couple of the, as we get to the golf side of things, I know a couple of the players that you wanted to have an opportunity to talk about are both Rory McIlroy and J.B. Holmes.
Yeah, no doubt. I really enjoy Rory, and we do a lot of work with Nike Golf, and this kid has unbelievable talent. And one of the great stories about Rory is that unlike Tiger, Rory immediately when he got his Nike contract, he refused to play anything else. And as you could see early in the season last year, it probably took him a few to get going, but he really felt that, and they didn't make him. It's not required by his contract to play those Nike clubs. He wanted to, and he feels they are the best club. But as anything, those changes take a little time to conform to, and so I really enjoyed last season as I watched him evolve with his Nike clubs and became the greatest golfer on tour. But moreover, I enjoy the sport and the human nature of a young man who gets frustrated and the Happy Gilmore throw into the pond and having to play with 13 clubs.
Right.
Even the coolest cats in the world, because golf takes that majesty of calmness. Everyone's human, and I really think that the innocence of throwing a club into a pond is, as much as it's not sportsmanlike, there's so many worse things that we could do. And there are penalties, obviously, for throwing it as he played with those 13 clubs. But when he threw that iron, I thought to myself, look, even the greatest, most focused, clear, balanced, confident young athletes are human, and I love when I see guys care about the game that they play, and that it doesn't matter how much money they're given by sponsors or how much money they win on tour or anything. And we see this in football, especially at the end of the Super Bowl. I think we talked about that before, but here in golf, I just love to see a guy just lose it because he cares so much and he wants to win.
That's great. That is a great story. Talk about J.B. Holmes too.
Yeah, so I don't know if a lot of people know, what an inspirational feel-good story for this year is he tied the course record yesterday at Doral, and most people, in 2011, doctors had discovered he had a malformation in his brain called Chiari, and that could actually lead to complete paralysis if it was untreated or not recognized. And then in September 1st that year, he went in under surgery. But what made it so amazing is that he had an allergic reaction to the adhesive on the plate that they put in his brain, and he literally could have died. And they rushed him out of there, and he was out of golf, as you probably know, for an entire year. Won a small tournament last year, the Wells Fargo in May of last year. But here you see this guy who, has once again come back from, mortality and just concerned about living, and yet recovers, practices, and gets his clarity, balance, and focus back. And sooner or later, who you are comes out. And talking about Billy Casper, as you guys were earlier, sooner or later, who you are comes out. And there's all these perceptions of who you are. You have to separate yourself from the kind and bad opinion of others. But sometimes people misperceive who we are because we are so focused on a micro mission at hand, and they don't know us off the field, and they don't know what's going on. And I represent so many different athletes when I ran Lee Steinberg, and it was amazing how unfair that perception is at times. You would be rushing to a funeral with an athlete, and people would be begging for an autograph, and there was just no way to give that autograph. But yet here are these fans who immediately take the perception of, oh, what a jerk. And we can't put ourselves in a sympathetic way in the shoes of other people. We actually have to put ourselves in an empathetic way to forgive those people. Just like we forgive Rory for tossing his iron. We forgive Billy Casper for his laser focus on the course, for not kowtowing or appeasing us as we watched him play for all those years, because he didn't smile and give us a nod as Arnold Palmer would. But here, sooner or later, good or bad, who you are comes out. And that should give you the confidence to do the right things, to be kind, to be gracious, and be empathetic to everyone. And sooner or later, who you are will come out.
Absolutely right. So That gets right into your book. Let's talk about a couple of the things that I love about your book. Again, called Connected to Goodness. It's a top 10 national bestseller, which is an incredible achievement and statement about how great this book is. In there, David, you talk about 7 principles, and I'd like to focus on just a couple of them this morning. And the first one is foundation. And one of the key elements you mention in foundation is like, what Warren is doing, is giving values. Talk about believing in the laws of the universe and how how I'm contributing both inward and outward. What we're trying to do is outwardly direct positive energy. You talk about people being a jerk and that sort of thing, and coming around to who you are is eventually going to come out. That's sort of one of the principles that I take out of one of the early chapters in your book is how outwardly we need to direct positive energy.
Yeah, no doubt. There's an accountability, and as woo-woo as some of the spiritual stuff sounds, it's really not. It's pragmatic and mathematical. And one of the mathematical equations that I have found in the great successes that I've had that have been found through the challenges that I faced is that it's a mathematical universe, meaning if we take accountability for creating more value to give than we receive, then everything in the universe will come to us. So instead of focusing on what we're going to get, what I focus in on is what can I attain? What value can I have to others? What value can I have as service to others? What value can I have by attaining things to give to others? And the more that I can have, the accountability of bringing more value to something than I'm receiving, will ultimately allow me to manifest or to attract to myself anything that I desire. So, we can't give what we don't have, and we don't even know what we have until we've given it away. And it's a very interesting dichotomy in life, is that when I want something, and I know the difference between what I want and what I need, and I've come to the realization that I need nothing, because if I needed anything, I wouldn't be here. All I do is have desires and wants, and it's fine to appease those desires and wants, but if I want those, the key to it is giving. The key to it is giving. And so I constantly look at a situation and see what types of value can I bring, what can I do for you. And in fact, I train, as you know, in my company, everyone, we use the Ben Franklin effect. One of the things is we ask for help, but more importantly, we always offer, is there anything I can do for you? And even between your and my relationship, as we've grown and we do, other shows and events together and all these things, I think you can see how that abundant attitude has evolved both of our professions and our businesses and our lives by constantly seeing what we could do for each other and not truly concerned about what you're doing for me.
Exactly right. I couldn't agree more with that, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we are doing for others as well. But when to your point, when we are talking to each other, it's always I always ask you, what more can we do for you, and then you turn around and give it right back to me, which is fantastic. David, your second principle is guidepost, and one of the key elements you've got in there is confidence, and you mentioned confidence a few minutes ago, which plays such a big role in the game of golf. So much of the game is mental. Talk about attracting what we desire with confidence.
Confidence in sports is the zone. So if we have clarity, balance, and focus, and I think Billy Casper is one of the epitomes of that, or Tiger Woods in his prime. That laser focus, you can see it in his eyes, or Poppy when he came up to bat with bases loaded and his unbelievable statistics with bases loaded. You can see this zone. And the reason there's a zone is that if we have clarity, balance, and focus, it brings confidence. And even as a weekend warrior or as young athletes that may not be a Hall of Fame caliber, we've all been in the zone before where we hit 10 shots in a row, where we shoot 3 shots below our personal best, or we run our fastest race of all time. It all stems from the fact, again, of this be more interested than interesting preparation, be accountable for empowering yourself. And as you do that and have clarity, balance, and focus, to understand the difference between our micro missions and our macro missions in order to attract. The more confident we are, the more energy we're putting out or giving into the universe, the faster and more accurately we are going to attract exactly what we want. And in sports, that could be a 62 tying the record at Durrell, or in basketball, it could be, even if you have 104 temperature, 52 points at the Garden. Whatever it may be, we've seen it again and again in sports. We see it again and again in life, that we need to, before we step into a situation, feel confident. In order to feel confident, we have to take a step back, be more interested than interesting, create that clarity on what we want, the balance in our life of how to get it, and the focus in order to attract it.
That's awesome. David, you've got some speaking engagements coming up later this month. Tell our listeners where they can find you.
We're all over the place. I just finished one of the Forbes top five events called The Secret Knock with Bob Proctor and Sharon Lecter and unbelievable greats. In fact, Andre Reed joined us there as well. And
nice.
I will be speaking at the Masters, at the Sanctuary, at Pebble Beach. I'm very blessed to be on the corporate speaking tour at a lot of the great luxury resorts with the finest golf course. We had Pelican Hill as well. And then I also am speaking up at the Napa Reserve, which is an unbelievable membership club, very exclusive club, the Napa Valley Reserve. And I will be speaking not only at the Reserve but around the country to the members and prospective members of the most, it's kind of the Augusta of wine. And it's a six-figure membership club with only the exclusive membership. And I'm just blessed to not only speak to these high net wealth members, but their children, because this is a legacy club where they transfer the memberships to their children, and they want me specifically to help empower those children to make sure that they still have cultural interest in the world of wine, and which is, as you know, very closely connected to golf. And it's just been a blessing for me. I just wish with all the speaking and business I'm doing and great things that I had more time to play golf. Although I am going to squeak out. It's 82 degrees out here in California, and tomorrow afternoon I'm taking my 4-year-old over to Monarch Beach, and we're going to play 9 holes together.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good for you. Good for him. That's great stuff.
Awesome.
Dave's book, once again, is Connected to Goodness. You can find it, plus where he'll be online at connectedtogoodness.com as well as on Amazon.com. Dave, thanks for joining me again this morning. I always look forward to talking with you, and we get to do it weekly on the football side on Thursday Night Tailgate, and I look forward to doing it again with you here on Next on the Tee next month. But you're a fantastic guy, and you're doing some great stuff. Congratulations to you and everyone at Sports One Marketing, and we look forward to seeing you out in L.A. for to watch our friend Warren Moon be honored and celebrated.
Oh, yeah, we're really going to enjoy the broadcast that we're doing, and we're, talk about service, just so appreciative to the armed forces that we have. And furthermore, I think we're going to be able to arrange having you with me on our next golf one, be down at the Masters working with Wheels Up and their big function that we're doing. So we'll talk offline, but we'd love to have our next meeting be down there, and all of our fans can join us there at the Masters. How's that sound?
Oh, that sounds fantastic. You kidding me? I'm tickled pink and various other shades. I can't wait. Thank you very much for that. We look forward to being a part of it. David, enjoy your day, enjoy your time on the golf course, and we look forward to catching up with you next Thursday on Thursday Night Tailgate. Thanks for being here, though.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, David. David Meltzer, again, one more time, the book, Connected to Goodness, Manifest Everything You Desire in Business and in Life. It's a wonderful read. It's a book, like I said in the intro, that you're going to refer back to throughout the rest of your life to refresh your memory on some of the things that he talks about. And, again, you can find it at connectedtogoodness.com as well as on Amazon.com as well. All right, speaking of great books, before we close up shop, I want to remind you about the book that our friends Dave Stockton Jr. put together called Own Your Game. Most of us, still snowed in on the eastern half of the country, or it's too darn cold to get out there. So since you can't sharpen your swing, it's time to sharpen our minds. So that's a great way to kick off the golf season and get yourself right sort of between years. And that's sort of been a theme we've been talking about on this show for the last several weeks, not only as we refer back to what's going on with Tiger Woods, but all of us. So we can have the opportunity. If we can't work on our golf swings, we can work on sharpening our minds. And in this latest book, the Stocktons let you know how to use your mind to play winning golf. Own Your Game recreates the experience of riding 18 holes with Dave Stockton at one of his highly sought-after corporate outings and draws from his experience as a Champions Tour player and a revered coach. He shows you how to think better, stay calmer, execute more consistently, and most importantly, how to enjoy the game more thoroughly. Go to StocktonGolf.com to get your copy, and for a couple extra bucks, Dave will even autograph it for you. All right, everybody, it's time for me to put a bow on this one. My sincere thanks once again to our friends Matt Adams and David Meltzer for being such great guests with me this morning. And we thank you for tuning in. You know we appreciate you the very most. We thank you for actually making the decision to listen to this show. Please also check out, you heard me refer to it, our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, with me, my co-host Bob Lazari, our announcer Joe LaGenusa. That show airs every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time live on Blog Talk Radio. And then starting at 10:15 p.m. Eastern on the Armed Forces Radio Network. And on Friday nights, you can hear the show from 8 to 10 p.m. on Boost Radio. And then, again, starting at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Armed Forces Radio again. We're joined every week by legends from around the NFL and the CFL. Please also check out both shows on Facebook. Give us a like. That's important to us, too. Thursday Night Tailgate, Next on the Tee. You can find us online. This show, nextonthetee.net. and ThursdayNightTailgate.com. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free and keep up to date with who some of our future guests are going to be. Thank you again for listening to the show today. Again, we appreciate you the very most. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.